Welcome, Shannon. I'm excited to have you on the podcast today. Let's dive right in. And do you mind introducing yourself? Give a little bit of your background, what you did in the military, and where you are now.
Yes, my name is Shannon Carpenter, and again, thank you for having me. I retired 20 years in the Navy. I joined the Navy undesignated, which means I didn't have any specific job. Probably one of the best things I could have done. But I eventually chose to work in supply. And let's say after my first 2 years in the Navy, I was in supply. The rest of my time in the Navy working with inventory, property, issuing parts, purchasing with credit cards and stuff like that. So a lot of time at sea, I will say that.
Yeah, I would imagine. And then, so what are you doing now?
Right now, I run two businesses from my home. Again, retired. I moved back home, my home state. My husband talked me into that one, which is Maine. So it's very cold. I'm used to California and Hawaii weather where it was, sunny and 70 all the time. And then now we're home in Maine, but that's okay. Which I'm grateful for because working from home, especially when COVID hit, it was the best option for me to be home with my kids. And then even now with appointments, which I kind of took all that for granted in the Navy because they gave you time off for that to take your children's to appointment or whatever. But also vacation, teacher workshops, it's a lot easier. I can work from home, create my own schedule, and still be here for my kids if and when they need me, which they're at school today. So hopefully they're not going to call or need anything from me for that. But running two businesses from home, again, a blessing, especially when COVID hit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was still active duty when COVID hit, and that I wish I could have just been at home when all of it was happening. So that's interesting that you said that you thought that coming in undesignated was a blessing. So I'm prior Navy too. I don't know. Did you find me from the female CPO birthing? Okay, sweet, awesome. I had a feeling. So most people, and the advice I would give someone is to not be undesignated when they join. So like, why do you think that being undez was a blessing, or why are you like pro undesignated, I guess?
So it was good for me. Now, if my son said, "Hey, I'm going to join the Navy," oh no, he's going to have a set rating.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a blessing for me, meaning I had no idea what I wanted to do. The Navy was very new to me. I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I was able, when I was, they sent me to deck department. And I was one of the first females on that type of ship. It was a tar ship. So the men were very standoffish. They didn't even want to look at me going down the P-way, but they were very helpful in teaching me what to do in deck and how to work. And then I was able, because I was on a smaller ship, I was able to kind of look around and see what the other departments and ratings were doing. And that was a blessing for me because I was able to pick which one I would prefer. And, luckily I was at that time, that rating, which was storekeeper SK at the time, they changed it over the years. It was open enough where I studied and worked with my peers and made rank. So I was able to move out of deck department fairly quickly. But like I said, I don't think I would suggest that for everyone. I just think it was a blessing for me.
Yeah, no, that's good that it worked out like a way that you wanted it to, because I've witnessed and heard a lot of not great stories coming from undesignated.
Yes.
For anyone listening that's not Navy or not in the military yet. Can you give a brief synopsis of what it's like to be undesignated, like how that program works?
So undesignated, once you get done with your 6 weeks of boot camp, you go to a short little school. And honestly, I can't remember the name. I think it was seamanship training. And they basically gave you a very quick rundown on how to handle the lines of the ship. So when your ship is getting ready to pull into the pier, you got to throw over these ginormous lines, and then you have to pull the ship with these lines to the pier and then tie them down. So some people don't think of that aspect. You're responsible for the upkeep of the ship, needle gunning, priming, painting the ship. When you're underway, you do watches 24/7 on top of your job. So you might be working all day, and then you have the midnight to 4 watch, and you're rotating every hour from forward lookout to driving the ship to doing the speed of the ship to messenger type of a watch. You're pretty much taking care of the outside and the inside of the ship, on top of doing the watches, and you have admin to do as well. So that's kind of where, after my first year, they had me do more admin stuff in the afternoon. So in the morning, I was needle gunning the ship, painting, priming, doing whatever operations at the time. I also did flight deck. We had it was a little LST I was on for when I was on designated, little LST. Mm-hmm. So we had helos come on, and I was part of what we call crash and smash team. So chalk and chainman is what I did. So I did admin portion in the afternoon, but you're pretty much at the disposal of whatever the ship needs. If you're having any type of a ceremony, we were the ones preparing the space for it. So I can understand where most people would say I would not go undesignated. We were always the first one. No, we were the last ones off the ship for Liberty, which is your free time, and the first ones to come back on, because sometimes we had to show up early to get ready for whatever we had going on. But it's not for the meek or the weary. I'll tell you that, as you know.
Yeah.
But I honestly believe it's all in how you perceive it and how you react to it. So you can, like, I was one of the petite, smaller people in deck department. So guess who was, put over the side to paint or put in a little paint punt? It was me. And I could sit there and be like, oh man, this sucks. But now that attitude is what I'm going to carry throughout the day. And I don't want to do that. So you just kind of roll with it and have fun with it. So again, it's what you perceive it to be. I don't know if that's how you saw it. Again, different time frame for me. I think I was 90s. I came into the military. So a little bit different. They're still getting used to like having women on ships.
Yeah, that is true. There were plenty of females in deck department. I was on an amphib, so an LHD, and it was probably 50-50, or like at least
awesome.
At the smallest, a third women in deck department, but still like 30% is pretty good compared to the ship being like 1 woman for every 8 men. My ship was a 1-to-8 ratio. So for deck department, like I think besides engineering, because on an amphib you have to what's it called, light the boilers and stuff, like, so engineering has to come on the ship a day or 2 early before you go out, and deck department was there shortly after. So there were a lot of girls, and a lot of tiny girls, like under 5 feet, not even 100 pounds, and they were walking around, coming to chow, like just covered in like dust from needle gunning and stuff, and covered in paint. And I'm like, you go girls, like, good for you. I'll sit in my AC though.
Not for you, but good on you. Yes.
Yeah. Well, no, I had a lot of respect for them for, because you can easily, I mean, women can kind of like, some women can work the system and get out of work because they can like sweet
Mm-hmm.
talk whoever their supervisor is. And
Oh, yes.
so I always
Yep.
had a lot of respect for them for at least, getting their hands dirty and doing the job. So,
Yeah. We had one, I remember one, female, she came after I got there. I think I
mhm.
was the second or third female in deck department. So just, imagine that for a minute. I think it was a second or
Yeah.
third. She came later and she was a petty officer at the time. So she was a higher ranking than me. I came in as an E1 and she came on this ship and people were like, oh, she's pretty, she's whatever. But when she put on her uniform and she got to work, it was a total opposite of
Mhm.
what they thought. She knew what she was doing, which was kind of insulting now that I'm saying it out loud, that men would think she wouldn't know what she was doing. But they were impressed with how much she knew about being a bosun mate, and
Yeah.
they were she was their go-to when they had questions on small boats. So
Mhm.
it was interesting to see that switch in the Navy. But then you go somewhere bigger like aircraft carriers and much more people. Like you said, the ratio of men to women is a lot more even. And then that whole dynamic is totally different.
Yeah, I'm sure. Um, yeah, just seeing like there's a difference between seeing a female in deck department and then like a female boats. And you see a
Mm-hmm.
female boats walking around the ship and that woman is someone to be feared. And
Yes.
much like, yeah, they are a special breed of human to be a, especially I feel like all of the female boats that we had were like first and second third class as a VM. Like an E4 carries a lot of weight in deck department, at least from what
Mm-hmm.
I witnessed. And
Yep.
so to have a rating and be a BM and be a female, like that is a powerful woman right there.
Indeed. Yep. I
Yeah.
agree.
So how long if you join the Navy and you're undesignated, how long do you have to stay undesignated for before you can, for to put it simply, pick a job?
So I came in like no college, no, I don't know, what do they call it when you do it in school?
Like
I had nothing
ROTC?
like to add.
Yeah.
ROTC, that's it. Thank you. I had none of that. So I
Mhm.
just came in, just, it took me a few years after high school to join. So, I was 20 when I joined. I remember it, sadly, 996. So 9 months as an E1, 9 months as an E2, and then 6 months as an E3. And then you're able to take, the rating exam if you, had good evaluations and you didn't get in any trouble. And back then it had to take a lot for you, to not do that. So
Yeah.
it took me like the whole 996. So within the first 2 years, I was getting ready because that was a tar ship and I was active duty. That was a reserve ship. Once I
Okay.
made rate, SK3, they transferred me to an aircraft carrier. So I went from a small itty bitty ship to the biggest ship and
Yeah.
I did 2 years
Culture shock.
there. And then I was like, yeah, what is this? But it is what it is. They send you where they need you, and
Mhm.
that's where they need me. And then I was unfortunately on aircraft carriers from that point forward. So
Wow.
it was,
What would you say your like ratio of sea to shore time was while you served?
So I will say that I had my two children later in my career. I was in my 30s when I had my children. So I was already an E7 when I had my children. So my career was established and all that. And I had while I was on shore duty. And then when I went back to sea, that's when I had my second child and they had to take me off sea duty and go back to shore. So that kind of altered my seashore rotation, but I was on the first aircraft carrier and I did a deployment and then 9/11 happened. So that whole in the, yeah. But we were in port at that point. And we also did, the ship had to go into overhaul. So I
Oh,
was
okay.
lucky enough to be in overhaul status too. So you're basically shore duty for, a year and a half, 2 years, depending on
Mhm.
how big the overhaul is.
Yeah.
And the most underway I think I did was not even the, 6-month deployments and all that, but people don't realize you have workups to get the experience and certifications to go to that 6-month deployment. But I did
Yeah.
the first ever in the Navy, a 3-carrier hull swap. And you take one carrier that I was on, the Reagan, and I got that ready to go to Japan. But we ended up doing a hull swap. So that means some of the people stayed on the ship. I was one of them that went to another carrier and then took over that ship. So you have while we were underway, by the way. So it was a lot of flying out to Japan, flying, to Hawaii or wherever they were for me, for my job, to prepare birthing spaces to make sure we had enough female birthings because it was a
Yeah.
very different outfit for, overseas or whatever. So you take that into consideration being away from home. I still consider that being at sea because I am flying out to the ship. The ratio, I really don't even know, but I remember not caring before I had children. I could go
Yeah.
underway. You could tell me I could go for a year. I didn't care. But once you have children, your priorities kind of shift. I
Yeah.
did the 3-carrier hull swap when my babies were were very little, 3 and just 1 year old. So kind of what changed was children. And when my husband emailed me and said for Christmas, my son told Santa Claus he wanted his mommy for Christmas, I was like, yeah,
Oh.
I think it's time for me to figure out retirement and being home for them. Not that my
Mhm.
husband couldn't do it. He could. It's just they needed mom home. So they
Yeah.
understood duty. And that was another thing. You're away on 24 hours duty or you're having to get underway for a week for workups or whatever. But
Mhm.
I remember the times when I had babies and you're crying and birthing because you're missing a birthday or missing a holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all that stuff
Yeah.
that I remember. And that's hard. But like I said, all before that, I didn't care. Send me out to sea. You want to send me IA, do it. Um,
Mhm.
but I wasn't the active duty member that was um, away from home for years at a time. I think the most we were underway was 7 months, possibly 8, but that was the most. I mean, there's some people that are IA for a year and a half. So I was
Yeah.
lucky in that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you could have been on a deployment when COVID broke out and your deployment turns into a year on the ship. Like that would be miserable.
Yeah. Or pulling
Um,
into a port like Guam and having just to wait it out. That's what happened to
yeah.
the ship that once I left. That's what happened to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I couldn't even imagine.
Were you on what was his name? Captain Crozier? Were you on his ship?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Very cool. I haven't read his book yet,
Yep.
but I definitely want to
Roosevelt.
get my hands on it. Yeah. I know a few people that
Yes.
were on
Well,
my ship, yeah, ended up on that ship and they were like venting on Facebook when they were in Guam. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're venting about this on social media. Like, are you going to get in trouble? But
yeah.
they
Yeah.
did.
They shouldn't, possibly vented like that, but
Mhm.
you know how that is. Sailors
Yeah.
are
I
sailors
think
and
this,
some are going to do what they want.
yeah. And I also think like it was already on the news at that point too. And so like they're
True.
not saying something that people don't already know. They were just being disgruntled um
Hmm.
and I guess to I'm not trying to this isn't a show to air dirty laundry about the military, but if anyone
Right.
listening is interested, it was the Roosevelt during COVID, right? And I'm sure you could just Google
Yes.
USS Theodore Roosevelt COVID and learn all about that situation. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I think what year did you retire? You weren't in the military for COVID?
No, I retired in 2000.
Okay, sweet. Um, that was when I was leaving my ship. But I was gonna touch on like doing workups and stuff. Like people forget that like when you're I think a lot of the general public think that like sea duty means that you're just like out in the water on a ship for 3 years, and that's not it at all. And
Mm-hmm.
I forget who I was talking to, but I was telling them like, no, when the ship isn't like going out to sea, we still work on the ship. It's just at the dock. Like you literally work on a
Mm-hmm.
floating office, and you come into work at 7 a.m. and you go home at 3 p.m. And um, I don't know.
Yep.
It was just like I just assumed that's how it was, even like going through A school and boot camp. But I forget what friend I was talking to, and they were like, "No way! I thought the ship just closed when you didn't go out." And I was like, "No, you." There's
Mm.
it's literally becomes an office building when it's when it's on the pier, and then when it goes underway, you just live there too.
Yep. That's
What
your
was it like?
floating city is what we called it. You
Yeah, absolutely. And I have been on a carrier, but never like I wasn't stationed on one. But what was it like being you were a chief on a carrier, right?
multiple,
What was
three of
oh,
them.
okay. True. Yeah, three hull swap. What was that like being like a female chief or a chief on a carrier? I have no clue. The mess has to be huge, right? Like hundreds, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yes. The
Yeah.
Chiefs mess is huge. I made chief on a DDG. So
Okay.
it was a very close, tight knit family. And I
Hmm.
think there were um, two female chiefs before I made chief. So there was only the three of us. No, four. There was four of us. And going to an aircraft carrier where there's thousands of chiefs, it's a bit overwhelming at first. But something, if women are listening and they're contemplating joining the Navy, I would
Hmm.
highly suggest finding a female mentor that is currently where you kind of aspire to be and kind of learn from her. And they will tell you the struggles, they'll tell you the hardships. And they're also going to tell you the good that comes from the bad. So I kind of
Hmm.
always tried to attach myself to women that were in a higher position than me, maybe one or two pay grades higher than me, and just kind of fed off them to see what are they doing that's making them successful? What am I not
Yeah.
doing that they're doing? And kind of go from there. But I think it's everywhere. I don't think it's just the Navy. I'm sure it's every branch of service. Having
Hmm.
to be a supervisor of majority of men, sometimes you're going to get the few men that don't like taking direction from a female. And that's probably the hardest part that you kind of have to get through. And you have to learn how to, what works for this one's not going to work for this one. It's what you kind of have to figure out and stick with. But
Yeah.
I would totally get a mentor that you can learn from if anyone's
Yeah.
thinking of
Absolutely.
joining the military.
Yeah. I would see like it was very easy for me to pick out like who I wanted to learn from as far as who I wanted to like emulate, and then who I learned from as far as who I don't want to be like. And
Yes. Yes.
you can quickly find like and I had some great male mentors too. But it was definitely the female mentors that I had that like really propelled me, I guess. And it goes a long way for sure. And just seeing like having that like kind of powerhouse of a woman to look up to is just so like inspiring. And I don't know, I
Yes.
think that the women that like I looked up to in my career, I would not have done anything I did if it weren't for them setting the example first.
And then pushing you, right? I'm sure,
Yeah.
they were in your corner telling you, keep going, do this, try that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't stress about this. That was my big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a male come up to me and tell me I would have it the hardest of all chiefs because I was a female. And back then I was newer and
Yeah.
into the chief community, the chief's mess. And I got really upset about that. But he talked to me later and he's like, I wasn't trying to degrade you, but you're going to come across people who are not going to want to listen to you, who are not going to take you seriously, who are going
Mm-hmm.
to take your ideas and make them their own, take credit for whatever you're doing. And it's sadly, it's true. It does happen. But again, it's just, what do you do from there? Do you keep going?
Yeah.
Do you lash out? I guess that goes across anywhere, any job,
Yeah.
any profession, whatever. Just
Mm-hmm.
how you handle it is the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
So you are actually the first chief that I've had on the podcast. I have a few scheduled in the future, but
Oh,
because you're the first, do you mind touching on like the difference between um being a chief in the Navy and then being an E7 in a different branch? Like, can you explain why being a chief carries so much weight and probably it's just, I don't want to say carries more weight, but it's just looked at differently, hitting that huge benchmark in the Navy versus just being an E7 in a different branch?
yes. I can't tell you everything, but you are tested, meaning you are put through vigorous, challenging situations that are going to happen once you make chief and you're in charge of a division, which means you're in charge of 50, 100 people. You're in charge of not only the work that needs to get done, but did your sailors get to medical to get their flu shot? Did they make it to their children's special needs appointment? The
Who's buying a car?
unpopular
Like,
stuff.
yeah.
Right. Bailing them, going and picking them up out of jail, bringing them to the airport, making sure they're ready for their first child, getting to call.
Mhm.
I mean, when you're a chief, you are from enlisted, from E1 to E6, you're grinding, you're doing the hard work. And by no means am I saying a chief doesn't. But when you become an E7 chief, you now no longer think of what do I need to do to take the next step. Your focus is the mission of the ship and your people. And I had a great CO who always said that if you don't take care of your people, they're not going to take care of you. And
Mhm.
people didn't like that he said you got to take care of your people before you take care of your mission, because without the people you can't do your mission. So that always stuck
Right.
with me. And I am fortunate that I had leaders and even peers that I worked with that felt the same and encouraged that. So when you're a chief, you are the mom, you're a counselor, you're a bus driver, you're everything to your sailors on top of doing your job that you are supposed to be doing, whether it's
Mhm.
inventorying, doing reports, whatever it is that you're doing on top of all your collateral duties.
Mhm.
Your main portion is to take care of your sailors, your people that you're working with, and
Mhm.
having to make sure they're taken care of and they're walking the straight line. And
Right.
you're tested through, well, back when I was, and I know it's changed over the years, you had, I think it was 6 weeks. Was it 6 weeks? I think it's 6 weeks where we were in a training mode and you're tried and tested. And if you pass or fail, you're welcomed into the chief's mess. But it's taxing on you mentally, physically for a reason, because it's going to happen to you and you need to be prepared for that. So they're just kind of preparing you for what's to come once you put on the anchors of a chief, because heavy is the anchor. It's different because some branches of service don't go through that. They just advance people and slap on the next pay grade and boom, you're done. You don't have any type of training on how to write up your sailors for awards, get them evals done, great. What to do when you have a type of a sailor-driven case, you have a sexual harassment case. We have all that type of training. That's the testing I'm talking about. Not necessarily, can you hold up something heavy? No.
Right.
But you're put into these situations so that you can know where to go for the help. You don't have to know everything. You just have to learn. You have to know where to find stuff, who to network to get stuff done with you and for you. And a lot of the other branches don't really do that. Like I said, they just kind of advance you and you carry on. And I feel some branches, like the Army, when we are brought into the IA situations and they see that you're Navy, they're like, okay, well, they've got it. They have great Army and the Navy, two totally different branches. They just have a different dynamic. We have, I feel, very organized and set ways where some branches may just look at it a different way. Different perspectives change everything. So I know for IAs, when they see your Navy, they're like, whoo, great. You're going to help us with this aspect, organizing, getting everything ready, checks and balances, because we're not good at that. No disrespect.
They
it's
don't
just,
have it.
they're better at something else that we're not, it is what it is.
Yeah. And I think something important to touch on about being a chief is like the community that you get. And you can say the word fraternity, but it really is like this. I remember like my first week as a chief, and I was like walking through the necks, and you just see someone else with the anchor on, and you're immediately like, oh, I can trust this person. And like, unfortunately, it's not always that way, but for the most part, like you find comfort in seeing another chief around, or you just see someone with the ball cap out in town, like a retired chief or something, and it's not just an automatic conversation starter, but it really is this like community and sister and brotherhood that like transcends beyond work. But just like you said, knowing who to talk to and who to network to, it's if I don't have the answer, I can text. I was at an air station when I was a chief or when I was active duty, and there were only 20 chiefs. So, a group chat was easy for all of us to talk to, and you just ask one question and someone either has the answer or someone knows someone who has the answer. And
knows where to go.
Right. That's the power of a 20-person mess. I couldn't imagine the power of a 1,000-person mess on a carrier, and and beyond that, you're also expected to be the expert at your job. Like your sailors look at you like, if chief can't do it, no one can. And first, there's this like assumption that the second you put an anchor on your collar, you are this all-knowing being of the Navy. And yes, you cannot make a mistake. And this isn't like complaining, and it really is like the heaviness of the job that's appointed on you. And you are the cop out for your sailors. You can say chief said to do this, and that automatically gets and it's a blessing. Like I could tell my sailors, no, just tell them I told you to do it, and if you get in trouble, say chief said to do
Come
it.
see me.
I'll take the heat. Right. You can kind of like, I don't want to say you can't get away with more because you are under more of a microscope, in my opinion, but you can take more heat.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can, I think taking more heat is the best way to put it. But you also are
Yes, I
expected
agree.
to handle more. You're expected to handle more heat too.
Right. You're the shield for your sailors. So if anyone is to get reprimanded or talked to, come talk to me. Don't, you
Yeah,
got a
they're coming
problem
through
with
me
them,
first.
come see me first. And then,
Yeah.
right. And then, you, and then that bond just happens with your
Mhm.
sailors, even though from the beginning, it's, you can't have any type of a friendship. But it happens. You care for these people because you're with them all the time, and
Mhm.
they can tell you that it's just, be professional. It's nothing personal, but it becomes personal, especially if you have a sailor that, their parent passes away and they don't have a ride to the airport. Well, guess who's taking you? I am. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
you can't just sit there and be like, yeah, I'm here for you. And then, when you leave the ship at 4 o'clock, I'm out. I'll see you tomorrow. If
Yeah.
they need your help, they need your help. And that's something very different than, which was a hard part for me. I don't know about for you, that when I transferred over to the civilian side, my husband went back to work and I could stay home with the kids. Roles were reversed. And he was telling me this stuff going on at work. And I was like, why would they do that? And he's like, not everyone's a chief. And it's like, but my mind, we're just programmed that way after a while. Some say
Mhm.
brainwashed, but you just kind of, that takes over. You might take a chief out of the Navy, but you're not going to take the chief out of the person. It's just who you
Mhm.
are. You take care of people. And I'm
Yeah.
still in contact with some of my sailors. They still contact me
Mhm.
when they advance. They have babies or they get
Mhm.
married. So
Mhm.
that tells you that, or reaffirms that you did something good while you were in, which was my biggest thing.
Yeah.
Was I wanted to make, a positive impact on sailors. So
Yeah. I
people
get
don't tell you
I
that part.
still yeah, absolutely. I still live in the town that I separated from, so I'm like 5 miles from the air station that I was last
Oh,
stationed at.
wow.
And I like will randomly run into my old sailors at the grocery store. And I was stationed at this air station for almost 6 years because I got extended because I was separating and I made chief all there. So I was like everyone's LPO, which is like the E6 in charge, and then I became their training chief. And it just, I had like a bond with every single person because I had been there the
Mm-hmm.
longest too. And so I'll run into them at the grocery store and they want to vent to me about whatever's going on at work. And part of me is like, I don't want to hear it. Like, I left a very
Yeah.
toxic work environment my last few months. And so part of me is like, I don't care. But the other part is like, I feel really bad for all these sailors that I
Mm-hmm.
kind of dipped out on. And, I wasn't going to be, I wasn't preventing anything negative happening. Like it was the issues were beyond my fixing. So, but that the humanity and like almost the motherly side of being a
Mm-hmm.
leader in the military makes you
Yes.
feel bad for like abandoning your children kind of.
Yes. And some people don't like to hear that aspect. Some of my sailors would call me, Mama D, or Chief D,
Aw.
Mama D, and
Mhm.
my maiden name. And people are like, oh, I can't believe you allow them, excuse me, can't believe you allow them to call you that. And I said, they don't do that in an unprofessional manner. They're not going to do it in front of, the XO or the captain. That is something that's,
Yeah.
in our shop behind closed doors. And the fact that they are comfortable enough to come to me with their problems, or even to say that I was almost motherly, like what you said, that they're comfortable enough to come with me with their problems so I can help them fix it or find the answer, because you don't know it all. Just got to be a learn it all. And that speaks volumes. Civilians may not understand because they do just clock in 9 to 5 or whatever their time is. And then they're out. Then they go home to their family. But when you're in the Navy, that is your family too. And when you said you kind of dipped out on them, you didn't dip out on them. One of those things where it's a rotation duty station thing or even retirement. Yeah, a part of me feels bad. I always felt bad leaving. I didn't want any type of hoopla. Just let me go because I don't like saying goodbye because I'll cry and I don't want people to see my emotions like that. But that is ingrained in us almost, is take care of them, and that bond is going to be there. It's always going to be there. And like you said, even when you see a chief that I've never met before, if I'm lost and I see a retired chief with the anchor on his hat, I'm probably going to go to that person first. It happened actually a couple of weeks ago at the grocery store. Me and my son were walking to the grocery store, and I had on one of my old mess shirts that had 3 anchors on the front and then the ship and the name on the back. And this woman almost came around the corner pretty quick, and it kind of surprised me. And I pushed my son behind me because the car's going to hit anyone. It's going to be me first, right? And she ended up seeing me in the grocery store, and she's like, "I wasn't going to hit you, honey. Sisters can't do that. Are you in the military?" Because she just saw my shirt, and she goes, "I'm a retired boiler tech." And people who don't know, boiler tech is an older rate. So, I mean, we chatted for like 15 minutes just because she saw me wearing a shirt.
Oh, nice.
And it was really sweet. Again, you just have that connection with people from the Chief's Mess. And that kind of rolls over also too with when I retired and I got out, I'm looking around like, I don't have anyone to take care of, I don't have any organization. I only have 2 small children who ended up, going to school. And I kind of felt lost for a while in retirement, which is, I think, how I started my first business. Is I was looking for something to bring me joy almost. And it worked. But there is something you kind of miss from the military. And I can't quite put my finger on. I don't know if you can figure it out, but there's just something that you miss from the military.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I miss the pain. It's like just there are so many like tough days in the military, but for some reason it's like trauma bonding almost. Like I know that sounds like dramatic, but I think that's what it is. Like you it I don't know. I miss like I have really great fond memories. But I'm still very happy with my decision for leaving. And I will always like respect the time that I served, and I don't have any negative feelings towards it, but definitely happy with my decision. Hopefully you found happiness in retirement and kind of adjusted more now that you've been out a few years.
Yes, I have. Like I said, I think it was the first couple of months I was like, okay, I don't have to wear a uniform anymore. I can do whatever. It's an adjustment period, and I know everyone tries to prep you for it before you get out. But until you go through it, there's no prep work for that. I mean, it is very different. And starting that first business was something that kept me busy, and the military kind of helped me with that portion because I was able, time management, inventory, please, that's like our bread and butter right there. I made a plan of the day for my business so that I wouldn't get off track as much. I mean, of course there's some days where it's beautiful weather and you want to take the kids to the beach. Running your own business, you can afford to do that. And then you just work harder tomorrow. So finding, like you said, finding joy is something that, if you did 20 years, 30 years, I couldn't imagine doing 30 and then having to stay at home or maybe travel. Well, I had one friend, she did that. She retired and she took her daughter and she is traveling, showing her daughter the world. And I was like, that
Mhm.
is an awesome thing to do. I
Yeah.
just can't get the
There's
husband on board with that.
yeah, there's a woman actually in the female in the female CPO birthing Facebook group named Tanae Davis, and she will not care that I say this. I need to get her on the podcast. She was my chief when I first got to uh this duty station, and she retired, and her husband are full-time travel agents, and they just live abroad, like wherever they want. And I think they are residents of Puerto Rico, and have like a house there, but they are never in Puerto Rico. And she retired in like 2019, I think, or 2020. And she is still extremely active in that group, and she's awesome. But I need to have her on here. She is a blast, and she'll be having some palm trees in the background wherever she is. I think she's in like Indonesia right now.
Oh man, and she's used to traveling anyway, being in the Navy, right? So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
now she can go wherever she wants, not where she's being told. Yes,
Right,
if you're
exactly.
listening, you need to come on.
Yes, I am going to message her today actually and be like, I need you. So what business did you start first? I know you said you had two businesses. What did you do
Yes.
first?
So my first business, I'm a Lularoe retailer. I sell clothing from sizes extra, extra small up to 3XL. And I had friends that it started out, people know it as a leggings business, the buttery soft
Mm-hmm.
leggings. And it kind of escalated and grew from there. We have denim bodysuits. We have more of a work clothing, like with blazers, trousers. So it's blossomed as it's gotten bigger. And it kind of started out with, I had an obsession with it, but also one of my best friends from home. Every time I went back home to visit, she was in like men's t-shirts. And I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, it's really nothing that I like that's in my size. And finding clothing for her that made her feel good about her body was hard for her to find. And I gave her once I obviously retired back home and came here. She lives here in Maine. And I gave her one of the shirts that I have, and
Mm-hmm.
that's changed her whole perception of how she perceives herself, her self-worth, confidence. And that right there is what brings me joy.
Awesome.
Changing someone's life, impacting it in a more positive way, something as simple as the clothing that you choose to wear. So that's what propelled me into starting a business. I'll be honest, just like the military, I didn't think I would be in it 6 years later, but here I am still going strong.
Yeah,
So it's been fun.
that's awesome. I think I know people that have started Lularoe, but they did it I want to say like 2015, 16, like in the earlier years of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when it was just leggings and like t-shirts and then like dresses, and they were all just kind of like a t-shirt shape. And so that's cool to hear that like the
Mm-hmm.
company has grown, because when I saw that you did, I think it's in your email maybe, I was like, I'm interested to see like how it's going, because she doesn't do it anymore. And I know it was, I don't know, it's really cool to see that. I didn't know that they had grown their like product, and that you're running a
Yes.
successful business, it sounds like, from it. So that's really cool.
Yes. And the company, any business, I should say, when you're getting ready to start a business, it's not what you like, right? It's what your
Mm-hmm.
customers like. So I may not like this top. Well, I do because I have it, but I love this top and this is what I sell in
Yeah.
Lularoe. You may not like it, but someone else might. So I'm going to get it and I'm going to try it anyway, because I'm not doing it for me to buy it. well, kind of a little bit, I guess, but I'm doing it for my customers. So what my customers want.
Mhm.
So Lularoe actually listens and takes our feedback like, hey, we need you to be more on trend. We need more solids, more prints. We need you to update it. I need your demographic to be more, let's hit the younger demographics. Let's get skinny jeans. Well, that was back then. Now we're into the bigger jeans, but
Yeah.
body suits, and let's hit the the other demographic of having blazers, work pants, something not just like you said, leggings and a boxy shirt or a dress. So
Mhm.
they have evolved over time, which is very important when you're
Yeah.
looking to run a business. You can't just stay stagnant and do the same thing over and
Yeah.
over because
Absolutely.
someone else is going to come along and do the exact same thing. You have to evolve and kind of go from there. So
Yeah.
we're
No,
still
absolutely.
around.
The most successful businesses are the ones that like changed their business plan, especially during COVID, to flex. And some people, 2020 and 2021 were like their most profitable years because they were able to adapt.
Yeah. And that connection online, I've always done online for me, but I also do in person. I do like vendor fairs and one-on-one shopping,
Uh-huh.
but the connection, even during COVID, the connection online, people really needed because you weren't able to gather anymore. So
Yeah.
you had to pivot and figure out, okay, well, I can't do in person. So now what am I going to do? And,
Mhm.
and then it kind of turned into this huge whirlwind and everyone's doing it. It's not just, our small little direct businesses anymore. Everyone is doing Facebook lives or, what's
Yeah.
the other one? TikTok or anything like that. So you
Mhm.
kind of have to go with the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your second business?
Oh, my second business. I am a Mary Kay beauty consultant, which kind of goes hand in
Okay.
hand, I feel, because
Yeah.
if I'm on camera selling clothes and making women feel confident, why not take it up a notch and get you quality skincare if you're having issues with any type of skincare issues, anything like that. And then we have, it's not your grandmother's Mary Kay. I'll say that. You have
Yeah.
cosmetics, we have perfume, body care, men's line, an all natural line. So that is another company, 60 years. Mary Kay's been around for 60 years. Talk about evolving from there.
Mhm.
60 years of business experience and just kind of evolving with what new scientific studies are coming out with, better products, and listening to customers and consultants. So I make people feel beautiful on the inside and the outside.
That's awesome. How is all of your between Lularoe and Mary Kay, is everything that you sell just uh online, like through like social media, or do you I know you said you do pop-up stores, but what's like, I
Mm-hmm.
guess this is your time to put in a little plug, like how can people find you and order your products?
Oh, so I have the best place is to join my Facebook groups. That's where I do um, special deals because we're not with Lularoe. You're not allowed to discount publicly. So if you join my group, you get special deals, and especially with the holiday season coming up, it's the best time.
Yeah.
Same thing with Mary Kay. The only thing with Mary Kay is you can only shop with me, or I can only become your beauty consultant if you don't currently have one. I would never want to step on anyone's toes, another beauty consultant's toes. If you have a beauty consultant, you can't shop with me, but the Facebook group is probably the best way to shop. But I also have an online, if you don't do Facebook, you don't want to join a group, you don't want to get all the notifications, I understand. I also have a website you can go to that has all the products. You click on them and it brings up information about the products. You're just not going to get the one-on-one recommendations. I do gift bundles with Mary Kay. I make cute little gift bundles for the holidays or any type of event, like a housewarming gift or stocking stuffers, anything like that. I do that all in my group. That's not going to be on my website. Same thing with Lularoe.
Right.
My website has just the clothing. I will sometimes have sales on the website, but you'd have to go there to check it often. I can't advertise it unless you're in my Facebook group. So that's probably the best way if anyone is interested in seeing the new clothes or seeing some skincare or gift bundles that I do for Mary Kay. That would be the best way. It's the Facebook groups.
Okay, awesome. And if you want to send me those links, I'll put them in the description of the episode too, so people can add it.
Great, will do. Write
Yeah.
that down.
All right. To close this out, the last two questions I ask everyone are what advice you would give a woman that is thinking about joining the military, and then on the flip side, a woman thinking about starting a business.
Okay. Women wanting to join the military. Actually, it goes for both of them. Do your research. So, what do you want to do in the military? Why are you joining the military? Are you joining the military to run away from something? Or do you want to join the military to gain experience, get college? What is it you want to join for? That's what you need to do your research on. I joined the military to get away from a situation, but also to get college education. So I left the military with a bachelor's degree in human services. So do your research, figure out which branch of service fits you. Don't go off of commercials or anything like that. Go see your local recruiting station. Do your own research. Don't go off of what, your neighbor may have seen on a commercial. Do your research. And for women who are, again, wanting to join the military, when you get to your duty station, don't become, you mentioned it, where some women in the military will use the femininity to get out of work or get certain privileges. Don't do that. You're worth so much more than that. So find a mentor, a female mentor that you can talk to, that you want to connect with, that will get you to where you want to be in the military. And for women that are in the military that want to start a business, again, do your research. You have to know what business that you want. You have to know your competitors, not just what the business is, but your competitors. Who are your demographics? Who are the people you are there to serve and sell your product to? Everyone has, there's 1,000 lip glosses out there. Why is my lip gloss the best? Why is my skincare the best? Why is this top the best over the one that you see at a brick and mortar store? Do your research on the business, have a business plan. And my biggest one, taxes are a pain. So get your taxes squared away, get an accountant. Don't do it alone. It was a rough couple years to get that down, but just make sure you do your research before you jump in, because the startup fees add up real quick. And then the next thing you know, you may not have enough money to get you to open your business or to even flourish, because you have the product, but no one's buying it because you can't advertise. So yeah, definitely
Absolutely.
do your research.
Yep. I could not agree more. Bookkeeper, I wish I would have done it from day one. I finally have one, and it is already a huge stressor off my shoulders, and I cannot wait. I'm excited to do my taxes this year because I have a bookkeeper. Yeah.
I felt the same way. I would physically get sick from it, and I would wait till, the April 14th or whatever day it is. I'd be stressing out because I didn't know what I was doing. So yeah, that's like a whole stress relief. And once you have someone that can tell you how to do it easier, it just makes your business run a lot easier. And you can kind of see am I making profit or am I not? And then kind of go from there. But Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely. Yep, 100% bookkeepers. You guys are sent down from the heavens. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Shannon, for being on this episode. We're going to wrap it up here, and I will put all of your links so everyone can find you on Facebook and everything in the show notes as well.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Good. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.